Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about something a little bit different today. I'm going to be dissertating and talking about astrology and drug alcohol abuse. Now, there may never be anything in one particular natal chart that would designate somebody as a chronic, habitual, or compulsive drug or alcohol user, or abuser, I should say. However, there may be indicators in a chart, and I believe they are, which would indicate perhaps a greater propensity to do so, and I'm going to talk about it in this segment. Now, first thing to look at, you can look at a chart. If it has a strong emphasis of water, a water-dominant chart, preponderance of planets in water, especially those in Pisces, and especially if they make a number of negative or adverse aspects. This could be one thing. Adverse aspects to Neptune and afflicted Neptune. Neptune in the first, especially if conjunct the ascendant, could also be if it conjuncts the ascendant from the 12th house, of course. Another thing could be Neptune in the 6th with many adverse aspects. Even a conjunction, or at least one conjunction to Neptune in the 6th, may increase these chances. Now, a strong 12th house emphasis. 12th house planets, a number of them, especially perhaps in the 12th house, and if making a number of adverse aspects, could indicate some maybe greater propensity or proclivity toward drug use, since the 12th house is connected with substance abuse. 12th house is also connected with mental illness, so this could be like a double whammy for some people. I'm not saying that everybody that has a strong 12th house emphasis is going to have mental illness, but because it is associated with mental illness and substance abuse, this is where things may increase a little bit as far as what I'm talking about. Now, also, if the ruler of the 12th is in the 6th, the ruler of the 6th and the 12th, the 6th is connected with health, 12th is self-undoing, substance abuse. So for those reasons, I would look at those. And as I stated before, let me just to clarify once again that the 12th house is associated with mental illness, but those are obviously, I'm sure, very extreme and isolated cases, with somebody having a planet in 12th house and more likely than not multiple adverse aspects to it, and so up to one or more planets in that 12th house. And like I said, I believe those cases are very isolated. So anyway, I'll get to one example I want to talk about. Now, many of you may have heard of Andy Gibb. He was a pop, teen idol star singer. He was a brother of the Bee Gees, and he died tragically at the age of 30 on March 10th, 1988. Now, he had some elements in his chart which may have indicated a strong proclivity toward this. He had two planets in Pisces in the first house. They were both intercepted, so it was harder to maybe grapple with maybe these issues. Sun and Mercury was in its detriment in Pisces in the first. He had Aquarius rising, but it was at 29 degrees, so on the cusp of Pisces. Now, he also had Neptune conjuncts Jupiter in Scorpio in the 8th house of death, and when he died on March 10th, 1988, it was something called myocarditis. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's heart muscle inflammation, but it was believed that this problem was aggravated over a number of years of I believe, cocaine abuse from Andy Gibb. So now, he also had Neptune had squared Uranus, which was Uranus in the 6th house of health, so this, I don't believe, helped matters as far as Andy Gibb went. So you look at this, he also had Venus in the 12th house of self-undoing, along with Chiron in the 12th house. The Chiron in the 12th house can indicate emotional wounds connected with matters connected with the self-undoing, and things connected even with sickness. So now he also, Andy Gibb, it's a shame he had to die so early, but he did have a number of indicators that it could indicate perhaps some stronger than average drug use, and he did. Now, when he died, sadly, transiting Pluto had conjoined his natal Neptune, and this was transiting Chiron was also in his natal fourth house. So the fourth house is the end of life. So really, and he also had transiting Pluto made long conjunction to the natal north node. Imagine that. Well, anyway, people, I'm going to go over to the computer and I'm going to show you a chart of somebody that had some drug problems. I don't know if this person still has it or not, but I know that this person did when he was younger. So I'm going to show you a chart from this person. So just hold on momentarily, and I'm going to go to my monitor, my computer screen. So just hold on a minute. Okay, people, I don't know if we can see this or not. I'm going to show the chart. Trying to get it up here. So anyway, going to look right here is the main emphasis. Look at the 6th house. 6th house has Neptune in it. Neptune is connected with chemicals, and you see that it conjoins, makes actually a long conjunction to the moon in Sagittarius in the 6th house. He also has Jupiter making that conjunction to Neptune. Now, Jupiter is a little paradoxical in its meaning. I think Jupiter is mainly benign and beneficial, but at the same time it could also expand and enlarge, and you have Jupiter making a conjunction to Neptune, which is connected with chemicals and drugs. This didn't really help matters, I don't think. And if it's interesting too, if you look, that Neptune also opposes Saturn in the house of self-undoing, seclusion, and solitude, and you have Saturn in the 12th can often indicate despondency in private, and a lot of this maybe was going on too, sadness connected perhaps with even the problem that I'm talking about with the drugs. And now you're going to see what else is interesting about this too is that you look at this Neptune and this moon, and you're going to see there's some involvement with a mutable T-square, and that doesn't help matters. You look at Saturn, you look at Mercury, and you see Neptune are all involved in this. So this really, it doesn't help the fact that you have this mutable energy that's kind of connected with this, is that, and it's nothing against mutable signs, but they don't have the tenacity on average, I don't think, in the willpower of the fixed signs, for example. So despite him having a number of planets in fixed signs, it wasn't enough, obviously, to at least combat this problem, because if you look, okay, he's got a number of fixed planets. He's got the 2 in Leo in the 3rd house. Now Scorpio, Jupiter in Scorpio is the 3rd in the 6th house. Then he has the MC in Aquarius. He has Mars in Aquarius, North Node in Aquarius. I believe that is 6 total. But what happens is mutable energy is very vacillating, and it's changeable and fickle. And when you have that in that mix, and Neptune in the 6th is part of that, along with the moon, obviously that's not a very good mix. And these fixed planets, the ones that I'm showing you, his fixed planets are in the mutable houses. You have 2 in the 3rd, you have 2 in the 6th, and then you have 1 in the 10th. The North Node is in the 9th, so you have kind of 5, and then you have this 1 in the 10th house. So, but most of the fixed energies or planets are in mutable houses, and they can lose their strength when they're in mutable houses. So this was not enough, I don't think, to thwart or combat the problems that were associated with this person's drug problems. So that was just something I wanted to show you. And I had read on one source online that sometime it seems like Saturn in the 12th can be prevalent. Saturn in the 12th in Gemini, a mutable sign, like I stated before, is part of that mutable T-square, and it is making negative aspects to Neptune, and makes the opposition of Neptune in opposition to the Moon. It also squares Mercury in the 4th house. So you look at all these elements and factors, and it's not obviously a good combination. But like I said, this was early in the person's life, and I don't know what, as far as right now, I'm not really sure about what's transpiring now, because it's just something that has not been discussed, so I don't know. But I do know, at least in the early part of his life, that he had a problem with this. So anyway, let me go to one more. I'm going to go to one more thing. I want to just give a rundown of possible indicators for drug/alcohol abuse in a natal chart. So just hold on momentarily, people. Okay, here we go. Let's see if you can see it on here. Okay. Now, if you look, I'm sorry, it's on a slant. Here's some astrology natal chart possible alcohol drug abuse indicators. Number 1, majority preponderance of planets and water signs, especially Pisces. 2, adverse aspects to Neptune / afflicted Neptune. Neptune in the 1st, especially if conjunct the ascendant. Neptune in 6th, especially with adverse aspects. Neptune in 12th, especially with adverse aspects. Other planets in 12th, especially with negative aspects. Neptune conjunctions to personal planets. 12th house ruler with multiple negative aspects. Ruler of 6th house conjunct Neptune. Ruler of 6th house in the 12th house, especially with adverse aspects. And the ruler of the 12th house in the 6th house, especially with adverse aspects. Hold on again momentarily. I'm going to go back to my little seated position. I'll be right with you. Going to get away from this computer for a little bit. Well, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for alcohol, drug abuse, possible indicators in the natal chart. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be continuing my little segments on lack, or I should say none, of a certain element in a natal chart. 2 things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because a person, astrologically, is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.